Hey, I love that tune. Welcome back to the Women Wise podcast. I'm your co-host, Sara Haboubi.
And I am Janine Lingenfelder, and today we are tackling a topic that holds so many women back, and that is finding your authentic voice.
Absolutely. I mean, I think so many people, they feel like their voice has maybe got lost in a crowd. They hold themselves back from expressing themselves fully. We go to all these networking events, and it's amazing how many women, they're there to network, and then they just freeze. They kind of stand up and they can't do it. Everyone else is willing them on, like, come on, we want to know what you do. We want to know who you are.
Exactly that. But today we're here to actually help you change that. And joining us is this amazing guest, Ewa Ledeboer, a trained singer, voice coach, and NLP master coach. Ewa, welcome to the show.
Hello, gorgeous women. Hello. I'm so excited, and I love that tune too. I was dancing here a little bit.
I know. I'm always
catchy.
sad when it finishes. I'm like, oh no, I want some more.
Very catchy, and I saw you dancing, and I'm like, okay, we grooving. That's very cool.
We gotta get into the groove.
Good evening, ladies, and thank you so much for inviting me. I agree that this is such an important topic for all the women, even the women who are confident, because they can also build on new skills, right?
Absolutely.
So before we get stuck into Absolutely. So before we get stuck into the topic, Ewa, tell us a little bit about yourself and how on earth did you end up doing what you're doing?
Oh, well, you want a short story or a long story?
let me give you in between. maybe medium.
Let me give you in between. When I was a child, people thought that I was born on the stage because I would be entertaining people. I would be singing for them. I would be asking people, the 6-year-old asking, would you like me to sing something for you or tell you a story or something? Born entertainer. Now, it wasn't always like this. Came time when the doubt, self-doubt, not enoughness kicked in, and I could be a poster child for being a pushover. Completely unable to say no, completely, opposite to confident. It's not a shyness. It's a lack of being able to say what I want to say or say no. And literally begging for attention, because obviously, when you feel not enough, you think that the enoughness is somewhere outside of you. And then I started singing. That's another story, which I will not go into. I've always been singing. Now, when I started doing professionally, I had to go on the stage and kind of reclaim that passion and that entertainment thing inside me. Now, that made me realize that this is not a talent. It's all about things that you can learn, things that you can grasp, and things that you can find inside you. And one day, I literally, I went on stage and I was terrified. It was the first time after such a long time. And when I went on the stage and I was in front of all these people, and of course, the first thought was like, do I look okay? Am I going to sound good? How are they going to perceive me, right? And then I started singing, and the whole thing completely turned. I looked at the crowd and I looked at the faces, and I can see the emotions, right? That very moment, I realized that it's not longer about me. And this is when I realized that on top of the things that I've learned as a child, from my grandma, who was teaching me all these techniques, how to speak, how to present yourself, how to say a poem, or how to sing a song, there's another layer of being authentic and being at service. So this being at service changed the whole thing for me. And from somebody who was struggling with confidence, stage was my escape, but that was still a shell, right? It still wasn't me. From that moment, when I realized that being at service and finding this enoughness inside of me, this is when it all started. This is when I realized that I can teach it to other people. When I started teaching, when I started saying, look, this is something that you do. This is very easy. And I saw the change in the people that I was talking to. I realized that this is something that you can teach. This is something that I have to teach. Because this is something that, there's so many women who have beautiful stories, and yet they don't know how to say them, how to give the message, to share this message with the world. And that's so important. This is so important.
Indeed. Yo, that's inspiring. It's really a powerful story, Eva. Yo, so it's obviously that we know this. Many women struggle with negative self-talk and limiting beliefs that hold them back from actually speaking up. With what you've been through and everything else, can you share some strategies that you use to help women overcome these challenges?
I think we have a delay.
So you see sorry, it's the self-talk. When we're talking about finding the voice, the first voice that we need to find is inside of our heads. That's the first voice, or voices, like in my case, and many of my clients or my friends, they've got a whole bunch of voices inside their head telling different stories. Yes, you can. No, you cannot. Oh, yes, you can. Oh, no, you cannot. Oh, no, you cannot. Absolutely not. Oh, how do they see you? And this is all over. Now, when we start tuning in to what we really want to hear, these voices kind of shush. And the way to do it is to put the focus on somebody else. So when, for example, networking, let's just take networking. I see a lot of women, going for networking events, and first they walk into the room and they look around, and immediately the voices come out. Who do I speak to? Oh no, this one is busy. Oh, they alone with their bunch of the crowd of voices that
They
become
all look so much
louder.
more. They all look more, so much more successful than me. Oh, they're not going to want to listen to what I have to say.
Yes, they all over. This one is, oh my gosh, how can I even fit in? I don't fit in, right? Who am I? This is the first question. Who am I? What am I doing here? Now, when you start thinking, how can I be of service today? How my story can impact somebody else? How my service can impact somebody else? This is when the voices don't have the reason to do this anymore, because the whole story is about this other person, right?
I think there's a delay.
Yeah, there's a delay.
When we have the focus on somebody else, I think I lost you ladies for a second here.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a dip.
I'll just keep talking.
Carry on. Yeah, keep going.
Yes. When the focus goes on somebody else, this is when the shift happens. Because it's not about me anymore. It's about this other person. This is also how connection is being built. And this is when you're becoming confident. Because when you're talking about somebody else's needs, it's so much easier, right? It's so much easier to talk about it than me. And when we think about our pitch, because of course, networking, you have to say what you do probably 100 times, right? Now, when you do it, you can say, for example, let's say that I'm a personal coach, and I will say, well, hello, I'm Eva, I'm personal coach. Now, that's the end of the story. There's no connection, right? But if I say, this is my story, or how can I help you today? This is what I do. I'm a personal coach, and it wasn't always like this. I used to be struggling with weights, with food, with being unhealthy, and then I found this inspiration. I started training, and now I can share this with somebody else, and that's something unique about me. That's something unique that maybe I can help you with.
Yeah,
right.
I love
the attention is on them. Right?
Yeah, I like the reframe as well. It's that whole just shift the attention away from being about you. One of the things I just want to share my own personal story about the little voice. I had a very I was like, it was over here. I can tell you where it is as well. It was over here, and I didn't realize it was going on all day long when I used to work as an engineer. And one of the things that I realized was I'm actually not that important, that everybody is thinking about me in the meeting. And when I talk, not everyone is going to have, an opinion about me as a person. They're just listening to what I'm saying. And I was so shocked at this kind of shift away from, oh, they must all be having the most negative thoughts about me. And then when I had that thought of, I'm actually not that important, I just laughed at myself. I actually had to sort of, take that step back. And I think having a sense of humor has got to be part of this as well.
Absolutely. We think that we are in the center, when we go on the stage, or when we think that the whole world suddenly sees us. Oh, hello, you came. Thank you so much. No, it's not so. Now, sometimes it's actually
Hang on a minute.
difficult.
What?
I have a trick, when you come from the network. Yeah, exactly. When you come from the networking meeting, who do you approach first?
Are you asking us?
How do you, like when you enter the room? Yeah.
For me, it's the first one who makes eye contact.
Okay.
Generally, it's wherever there's a seat.
Nobody makes eye contact.
She'll make eye contact. She'll make sure.
She'll make sure.
I will make you look at me.
Hit their face.
And they're trying to approach a group of people who already talk and kind of swoop in. Now, this is practically the worst thing you can do, because when you do it and you enter the conversation, unless you're a very confident person or people know you already, it's very difficult to get in. So what happens? You immediately are noticed. So what happens to the voices in your head? They don't even see you. You're not important. You're not important. Get away from here. Right? So I always say, when you enter the room, when you're networking, notice the person who stands lonely, but not the person who stands on the phone because they might be busy, but somebody who looks lost. Because when they look lost, you immediately, when you approach them, you are at service. Immediately. And this is so easy. Just a shift of, going into the crowd and hiding, which is exactly opposite to what happens because of this, not important. Nobody can see me. I told you I shouldn't have come here, and all this story. Who is even more lost than you, and immediately at service. Now, the fear that we have inside, and everybody has this fear. I've done it a million times, and I still have fear when I go on the stage. But this is not a fear of, something is going to happen. It's more as an excitement, right? And this is also the word that I use, because I don't know if you know that the same hormone, the same exactly chemistry in your body, the same is produced when you talk about fear and when you talk about excitement. It's exactly in the same space in your body. It's exactly the same chemicals that are being released when you talk about fear or excitement. So when you say, oh my gosh, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid. And if you just change the word and you say, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Changes the whole picture, right?
Yeah.
There's a
And
word
it-
between
it's
fear.
not
For me, there's actually a word between fear and excitement, which is anticipation. So I
anticipation
like
is a
that word.
beautiful word.
I like that word because you're
Yeah,
like, yeah, you're not quite sure. Yeah, of course it's unknown, and that's what
of
makes you
course.
feel a little bit. But there's also anticipation that it's there's that feeling that it's going to be good.
It's a beautiful, beautiful word, and it's so helpful. Now, imagine that you're walking into this room and you are anticipating what's going to happen, right? Now, again, if you approach somebody who is as lost as you, or even more, you immediately find yourself at the service, because you speak to them and you speak to them and about them. You ask questions. Now, talking about asking questions, I'll jump to something else that is super important. And this is all about voice now. I say two things that are completely in contradiction to each other. I say, never ask questions and always ask questions. So the first one is when you talk and you say, hello, my name is Eva, and I would like to talk about this. And I would like to tell you about my services. And I would like to tell you how to be confident. Now that's a question. You never ask questions. You say, hello, my name is Eva. I'm here to talk about confidence, right? So this up talk, they call it's not very nice word for it, but it is up talk. It's an absolute no-no, because this not only puts down your credibility, but also it doesn't sound confident at all. So you don't ever ask the questions, and then you always ask questions to find out about somebody else. So how can I help you?
Are you saying don't ask permission? Do you mean like don't ask for permission to
No,
talk?
not even, so, like in the music world, right? This is a question. This is an intonation that is characteristic for the question, for the question. Now, of course, it's people reframed it into asking permission. It sounds like a question. That's why I say, do not ask the questions, always ask a question. Now, this is so important, and I hear especially women doing it, and especially when they nervous, for example, or in a network meeting when they have to stand up and say what they do for about 20-30 seconds, right? And then it's, hello, my name is whatever, and I'm here to talk about whatever, and am I asking or am I telling? And this is something that immediately puts you into not confident and don't know what you're talking about box. And unfortunately, or fortunately for some, people make their opinion about us immediately after we open our mouths. That's the first thing that people hear. And this is the only thing that is authentic. You can lie, you can come on the stage and you can be all bossy and, and do this and everything. But when you open your mouth, it immediately comes across. Oh, I can see that I'm all beautiful now. me. It's all about the voice. How you're going to tell the story. Are you going to shout at people? Or you're going to tell them the story? Or you're going to be unforgettable or forgettable? Because we want to leave the impact on people, right?
Yeah.
We want to speak to them to give them something that they can walk away with. You know, when we go to any crowd, it doesn't matter if it's one person, two people, 15 or 1,000. When we come from the place of serving them, we come and we can tell them any story that will uplift them or inspire them, right?
Mm.
The goal for every meeting.
We're having some technical issues tonight.
Yeah,
And
Ewa, you're going to have to repeat that because we're missing so much right now. Ewa, are you with us?
We seem to have a frozen internet.
Right? This is why we go to these meetings, not, you know, to show ourselves only. And the best way to show yourself is to connect with somebody, right?
Mm.
And you can't connect if it's like me. Oh, you know, do I look good? My mirror, you know.
But that's the thing, you know, your voice is more than the sound of your throat. It actually reflects your, well, that's just my belief. It reflects your thoughts and your beliefs and also your emotions. And it's hard to actually find that real voice, your own voice that really reflects your own emotions and your own beliefs. And with this, you share a quote, one of your favorite quotes, Ewa, where you say, pretend and then stop pretending. What? Tell us a little bit more about this one, because that was very intriguing.
Pretend and stop pretending. Imagine if you are without all these limiting beliefs. Pretend that you're enough. What would you feel? How would you come across? How would you speak when you have your own real voice that is not judgmental or not being judged? That it's just you, and pretend that you are who you're supposed to be, and then stop pretending, because once you know who you're gonna be, when you're completely authentic, natural, and you will never go back to being somebody who was created. We spoke about it before, that the voice is not really ours, right? When we speak, unless you're trained or unless you've got this beautiful oratic talent and you know how to use your voice, our voices are created by environment. It can be a family, it could be friends. So we mimic certain way of speaking. It's tone of the voice. You know, funny enough, it's especially mothers will hear their voice and the tone of their voice in their children, because children are like mirrors. So when you hear this little voice repeating something, and
I always laugh when people say that. It's like, oh my God.
This is, you know, or when we record ourselves, how many people say, I hate listening to myself? Well, first of all, this is something
I was actually going to ask you that exact question, which is, when people actually hear themselves back, how do you help them to change their opinion? Because most people, obviously, we don't sound in our heads the way other people hear us. So when you hear yourself for the first time, it is quite a shock.
Of course, because we hear it from inside.
Yeah.
So first, it's completely natural, because we, you know, our brain doesn't really deal very well with something that is unknown. And we tend to hear, you know, we hear our voice from somewhere else. So we tend to think that this is our voice until we record it. And we, you know, bam, oh my gosh, that's a completely different person, right? Now, when it happens, it's a shock, but it's a shock for our brain. So it has nothing to do with us hating it or you know, thinking that, oh my gosh, this is so bad. Now, sometimes, yes, it is bad because we don't know how to do it, right? We don't know how to enunciate or put the emphasis on certain words to make it sound interesting. Now, when I started recording myself, I was like, oh my gosh, I rock. And then I listened to the tape and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so boring that I'll probably die. Now, you see, record yourself is a tool. So the more you record yourself, the more you listen. And you always listen with the unbiased list. All right. So, for example, I give the list to my clients and I say, okay, so what do you sound like? Is your volume here or here? Is your tone? What do you sound like? Do you sound like Janice? Or do you sound like very earthy? Or do you sound like very, like, or sharp, So where are you? The pitch, the pace. Are you talking too fast or too slow? Because I have heard people who are talking like this and you want to die unless you're going into
sleep
hypnotherapy
anyway.
session. So, so where are you? Now, this is the unbiased list, checklist that you can see. Where are you? Now, the question is, where do you want to go from here? So when you have the list like this, and you can make you can even make your own. When you have the list like this, you don't listen to the voice, as something that is unknown to you. You listen to it as a tool to grow from, to build on. And our voice is an amazing instrument. Amazing. And, many people I know, they tend to stay just in one little box. I hear people say, oh, I'm always been nasal. Well, this is something that you can work with, and you don't need to be nasal. There are certain things that like up talk, right? Like asking the questions. These things, yes, you need to fix. But the other things, that's your voice. So when you find this natural way of speaking and it's authentic, it doesn't mean that you have to be faster or louder or quieter. It's up to you, who you are, right? I'm naturally loud, but you see, when I go on the stage and you can't shout all the time. You have to have this modulation of the voice, like walking up the stairs and
we're missing all these great tips.
people who don't know how to use the voice. Yes, you were saying something.
Your internet's a little bit laggy. So Zita's got a question here. She said she just got a question here from. Can you hear me? Are you there?
Eva, are you there?
Is the question? Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
So the question is there a point when you can sound the same on the inside as you do on the outside? Yeah. I actually would say
you literally do this when you put your hands behind the ears and you push the ears to the front. You can kind of have something like almost like what you sound on the tape. Because I can
tell you now, everyone who's watching this is doing that at home. And
we're all going to look like mooses, or what do you call it?
So when you can actually hear it, that when you do this and you push your ears like from here, when you push your ears, you literally changing the sound, and the sound becomes immediately flatter, and it comes, to the front. So yes, you can hear it without a tape. But now you see, like before you had tape recorders. Yes, I'm that old. Tape recorders, and now you've got amazing technology. And I would recommend taking any book, reading it, recording it, and then listening to it. And
that's a really good idea.
Sometimes
that's actually a great idea.
It's gonna really sound bad, right? Yeah. But then there are techniques. What do you want to do?
Mm.
How to put a pause, how to do this melody. And funny enough, the melody is like building on a persona that you want to be, which also goes with the pretend. When we talk to somebody, we becoming a certain persona. So for example, if you are doing a business presentation, you are going to sound a little bit different than when you're talking to your children or telling them a story. It's exactly the same voice you're going to use, but it's a different way of getting it out. Okay. And this is why, like I use a lot of singing techniques to show people how to modulate the voice, how to work with the voice, because the voice is an amazing instrument. Imagine that if you just talk, right, and you don't know how to use your voice, because this is where it starts. To find your real voice, you need to know how to use it first. So when you just talk, it's like painting the picture, but it's a black and white picture. Okay. Now you start adding a little bit of flavor. So there comes the color. So now you can see the beautiful, colorful picture. But now imagine if that picture becomes a movie. Now that's powerful. And this is how you see the difference between people who go on the stage and just talk information and words, and people who tell the story. Because this is amazing. And now our voices, the people say, well, I'm not a singer. Why do I need to do this? Well, frankly, whether you do hello from the other side or hello from the other side, it's the same voice, right? It's exactly the same instrument. Now, one of my favorite, completely crazy exercises is going like an ambulance, and you go like, wee, wee, wee. Now, that sounds completely crazy, but that shows your voice that you can go like, oh my gosh, I can go so much higher, or I can go so much lower, and you play with your voice. Then you start reading the same book that you were reading, maybe, like a short text, like paragraph or two, and you start reading it as a very angry policeman, for example, or you start reading it as I don't know, Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse, and these kind of games, they show you the variety that you can do with your voice. And of course there are like breathing and proper exercises and everything, but the most important thing, that in that play you understand that your voice is a massive instrument that can change the world. The best speeches in the world are because somebody heard them. It's not the words. When you read that speech, it doesn't really mean anything, right? You just read it. And by the way, when you read the text, you talk, right?
True.
So depending on how you read it, and people know how to read, but do they really know how to read to make it interesting? When you listen to audiobook, right? It's this voice, this audiobook voice. But this is not the voice that you would use in business settings, right? When you have the romance, and the woman is reading beautifully and, quietly.
I don't
And
know, you might get a bit
soft
further. You might get a bit further in business if you did. That'd be quite funny.
Well, yeah. Look, if it serves you. Now, that's the beauty of understanding your voice, that you can use it to your advantage. And I would be very careful about using the word manipulation, which I heard a lot, that, oh, it's like manipulating. Well, frankly, whenever you open your mouth, you're manipulating people, because they have to see the image in their head to understand what you're telling. So you already manipulating. Now, the reason why I'm saying it is because you can manipulate to do good. You can manipulate people to feel better, right? To have this energy, to get this, power to remove the limiting beliefs. And of course, it comes with the words. The words that we use are as important as how we use them, especially the words that we say inside. Like you said, anticipated, right? Anticipation. It's a beautiful word. And by the way, it also reminds me of another very important thing when you walk into the networking event is a mirroring, but the mirroring in the sense of language. So it's not the typical one that they teach us, during business, business classes, that you have to make people say yes and that you have to match their pace. No, it's use their words. When you use the word anticipation, I'm not going to push my excitement into you, right? When you say to somebody, if you have this problem and somebody answers, well, I have this challenge, you're not going to push the problem on them. You're going to use their word, right? When they say, I feel overwhelmed, and you say, well, it must be so tiring, right? You will never find a connection. But when you say it must be overwhelming, immediately they think, oh my gosh, she gets me. And this is not the manipulation, it's the calibration.
I think it's a really, really important skill to have, because what you're doing is two things from my point of view. One is you show you're listening. Like the person's like, okay, this person's really listening to me. And the other one is it validates that person in terms of what they're saying.
Yes.
So if you repeat those words back, they feel validated, they feel like they've been heard. And as you just said, that's the connection. So yeah, I think it's a very important skill, is to not, people often use their own words. They kind of go, well, what I hear you say is, and then they use a completely different set of words. And immediately I'm like, that's not what I said. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
That's not what I mean.
Yes.
You're using your words. Yeah, you don't get it. You're not getting me.
And no amount of body mirroring and other tricks, it's not going to work, because you need to, it's even, like to shoot your voices, you actually need to actively listening to somebody. Otherwise, the voices are trying either to rehearse what you're going to say next, or fight inside. No, this is going to sound better. Or no, she doesn't have the, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Or, oh my gosh, she's so wise. How can I even go to this level? But if you actively listen to somebody, all these voices are shushed immediately. And you've got a chance to really connect with somebody. And this is where the confidence comes from. Because when you understood, that being confident is this feeling that is, that's my definition, it has nothing to do with being assertive and screaming and being resilient. It's a more internal feeling of being accepted, an external feeling of, fitting in, and knowing that now this is my cue to say something and help. Because this is when the confidence shines. And it doesn't mean that somebody confident, this is the picture that I used to have, the confident person will be the person who walks like this. No, I know. That was really my picture, when I was okay. So what does it mean to be confident? Like a soldier, like a queen, you're walking. This is not confident. That's stupid.
Ewa, we actually have a question here from one of our listeners. Nikki Marshall is asking, what advice would you give someone like herself who is partially deaf and she's got tinnitus, to be able to truly hear how she sounds and work? What tips would you give someone like that?
That's a very interesting question. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you very much for asking it. Recalled, because you can hear what you sound on the recording, right? You can hear it, you can analyze, but record the video. So first, when you record the videos, you've got two tools. One is when you listen to the video only and you don't hear the voice, just the video, so you can see if the message comes across. And another one when you listen only to the voice and then you listen to it together. So if you, and there is a way of listening to it differently. So you will have to translate what you hear to what you want to hear. When you see, for example, when you hear that you speak too fast or too slow or too loud, right? And, you will have to find your own way to match if you hear differently, right?
Yeah.
Was that the question?
Yeah, I think it does answer what you're saying, and it makes sense. Record yourself, listen to yourself, look at yourself when you start talking. What is your body telling you? I love that.
And let's remember that we are not matching. Even when I'm working with the clients, working on the voice, I'm working on their voice, not matching to mine. Do this. Because this is exactly what we've been doing since childhood. When mama says, do not talk too loud, do not do this, speak, be quiet, right? This is when we've got these nuances in our voice that are being taught to us, right? So when Nikki will do her exercise, she will have her own, what do you call it at school? Like a baseline. Right? She will have her own baseline. Everybody has their own baseline, and understand. Now, you see, I love Tony Robbins, and he's loud. Now, I know people who can't stand him because he's loud. So we are unique people. There is only one Ewa, there is only one Janine, one Sara, one Nikki. We are only one. So our baseline is our baseline. The tips that I'm saying, that I'm teaching, are the tips based on how you can go from your voice that is black and white, your picture. You paint whatever you want. I want to paint a cow and you want to paint a mountain. That's your mountain, that's my cow. But at the moment it's black and white. Let's make it colorful. Let's make a movie about a cow. Right? Or your mountain. So it's all about having the baseline that is completely yours unique, and then growing from there, learning what can you do with your voice. And that's why these exercises, right? This is exactly. That's the purpose of these exercises, to learn how to breathe. I can talk for 10 minutes on one breath, and and you want to do it too, because when you have to, or like as a teacher, right? Many teachers, they speak, they break their voice, they now proper breathing lets you have a cushion on your like underneath your voice, and you can talk for hours, right? So it's all about building techniques and to be helpful. It's not about being heard. Being heard is like a secondary thing. Again, it's not about being heard, because or understood.
Yeah. So we've obviously talked a lot about we've talked a lot about networking and people speaking in those situations. But what other situations do you help people with? Would it be actually doing presentations, like being on stage?
Absolutely.
Is that something that you help people?
Absolutely. You see, there are different ways. Like, for example, if somebody has the TED Talk, you've got only 18 minutes to give your message. Now, you need to be understood. So different purposes for different situations. When you're doing the business presentation, right, you can still tell the story. When you're selling, oh my gosh, this is like imagine now you answer the phone and you say, hello, yes, what do you want? Or, or you say it with a smile. Hello, yes, what do you
I'm
want?
sorry.
It sounds
Have you been
the same
speaking?
words.
Have you been speaking to my teenage son?
Oh. And by the way, the children, you can hear the tone of the voice. Now, imagine when you answer phone from your friend, from somebody who you know, right? Very often you can, is everything okay? Because you sound a little bit off. Now, listen to that. You sound a little bit off. You don't see them. They use the same words. It's just the sound, these little things that we hear in the voices that we perceive. Of course, we perceive in our own world, but we still can catch them. So we either trust somebody or we don't, based on how they sound. How powerful is that?
Very powerful.
How powerful is that? And very often, you've got people who have amazing stories or amazing business proposition. You know that when you look, what is this program, Shark Tank, right?
Oh,
When
yes.
you watch people presenting their business ideas, now you actually can see who will succeed, and it's not based on the business. It's based on how they will perform it. And this actually gives me the, idea. A lot of people ask me, do I prepare? Yes, you do. Depending on the subject. I prefer, I teach people in a way of conversation. So it's not like you really have a script, but you always prepare notes. Or even if somebody is on just starting, doing interviews or talks, I advise to write few sentences that will be, you can just pop from your, from your sleeve, right? Few sentences, just memorize them and build on them. This is not cheating. You prepared them, right? So just slow things, because then you tell your brain everything is okay. When I say this sentence that I memorized and it's me, it's something about me or something about a question that somebody asked, I can still think about different answer. Now, why do I say prepare? I've heard this, that when you, like, for example, when you do the TED Talk, you have to prepare almost word for word. There will be very rarely somebody, depending on the subject, of course, if it's a subject more motivational or inspirational, yes, you will have the basic outline, but you will be talking from your heart. But if you're doing the presentation on technology or business, you will mostly have to memorize. Now, somebody said, well, but you can overdo it. Well, please tell it to Celine Dion, who sang My Heart Will Go On probably thousands of times. And every time she sings it, you still cry. It's about the delivery.
Yeah, it's right? Your voice is, at the end of the day, it's your fingertip. There's actually a quote, I can't remember who said this. Your voice is your fingerprint in the symphony of life. So let it be heard.
Wow,
I like that.
Nice.
I can't remember who said it. I'll look it up again. And it's so, it just fills with this topic, because it's exactly that. It's like you only have your name. So you only have one voice. Make sure it's heard.
It's exactly. Make sure to make use out of it. And it's you can't, like I'm saying, you can't compare it to anybody else's. Correct. It's yours. It's your story, your unique story. I remember that one of the motivational speakers that I heard, she said that the chances that you are born are like tiny, and she gave the number that it's like you can't even imagine that number, right? And
yeah,
it's just amazing. And our voice is even, like more unique. And I just, this is my passion to let people, say it. You've got something to say it in the way that it will just click in somebody, that somebody, it will either inform them about something or inspire them, motivate them, or transform them completely. And that's the purpose. That's all the fun that there is, like.
Funny, I just had a something just came into my head there as you were talking, which is, say what you mean and mean what you say.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, this is like when people ask, do the app talk. You don't mean to ask me if your name is my name is Eva, right? When you say that something is big and you show that something is really, really big and something is so small, that doesn't make sense. Now we tend to do it every day, that we say something without passion. Now imagine somebody coming to you and say, look, I went to this restaurant and this food is amazing, mind-blowing. Now, where is the shyness? Where is the lack of using the voice? Right? Because there is a passion. So now the point is to put this passion into the voice and use it like when you want to use it, not only when you forget about it. Because this is what we tend to do. We basically forget about our shyness and that we can't use the voice because we're not important, and we talk about something that we love. But then when we have to stand in front of the people, and it's again the service, right? When I'm telling you about my favorite restaurant, I'm giving you a service and to the restaurant, right? I'm joining, I'm connecting two people, I'm telling something that you might be benefiting from. Now, why can't people do it standing on the stage? Because there's no restaurant anymore. This is not about connecting people. It's about, oh my gosh, me.
Me. Yeah.
So
finding your authentic voice, it's not always easy. I truly believe that it with yourself, with Eva, it's guidance, it's support. And once you have that, it's incredibly rewarding knowing that you have the confidence to speak your voice.
Absolutely. And it starts inside, it starts. So I always say, that it's not what you say, but how you say it on the outside. But it's what you say in the inside. Because people tend to forget, that, it's not what you say. The words are only 7%. Well, yeah, outside. You still cannot just wing it or talk about, nothing, word salad, because people will get it. And
there's a lot of word salad. There's a lot of word salad.
Yeah.
I like that. Absolutely. People just talking and you're going, what are you saying? That makes absolutely no sense. Just words coming out your mouth. It's just like, just toss them all together. One of the other things I want to
this is the era of AI. Look, you can spit out a beautiful story. You can tell AI, ChatGPT, give me the beautiful story, to tell to my people, right? Yes, AI will make a beautiful story, but AI will not be able to say it. So you have to find the way to connect to the people and to say it in the way that they will believe you. First of all, believe you, connect with you, and get inspiration from that. That is so important. So, it's like, but word salad is all over. So now imagine word salad plus lack of connection and lack of this. And it's not a skill. It's not a talent. It's not a talent. It's a skill. It's something that anybody can learn. It's like painting. By the way, I've seen, people teaching the painting, to paint stuff and I've seen people who I would never think that they can paint, and they produce amazing stuff. And it's the same with the voice. It's the same with any other skill, riding the bike or playing a football. It's exactly the same thing. And it's practice, it's knowing and conscious understanding how it works. So you can do it too. Right?
Yeah. Amazing.
It's fun, you know.
So one last
fun.
question, because we're coming up to I can't believe it yet again. It just flies.
Yeah,
It just goes
I'm
so fast.
crazy how time
One
flies.
question is
I have a watch here.
how do you help people cope with? I know we're talking about the voice, but actually, what's also important is the pause, and actually the space. So what sort of advice would you give people to not sort of feel like they have to fill every single second, with something to say?
Oh gosh, you know, well, depending on the situation, and I don't know the situation, but first of all, if this is a dialogue, it's always a dialogue, even if you're standing on the stage, right? Pause is one of the most important tools that you can use. And why? Because you give people time for the message to sink in. Okay, now you don't need to, of course, you don't need to have this word salad going on and on and on non-stop. The pause serves two purposes. First, for your audience, or either it's one person or 15 or like 100 and 1,000, right? For the message to sink in, so they can actually process what you just said. But second, to stop the brain race. Because when we talk, we are in the non-stop race between our tongue and our brain. So the tongue wants to say something, the brain goes either behind, what did I say, or what am I gonna say? So it's non-stop race. When we pause, this is when you eliminate all these, because we just pause, and the brain has a time. And I'll tell you exactly how much to pause. When you take any book, any text, grammar is the friend. When you see the comma, you count to 1. When you see, so basically when you read, let me just read, I've got some book here. So for example, you read, I once met a coach who used interesting metaphor for this kind of behavior, full stop, 1, 2, 3. So you say, once I met a coach who used an interesting metaphor for this kind of behavior. Now, people tend to say, she said it was like sitting at the dinner table with blah, 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 blah. Now, what you do is, I once met a coach who used an interesting metaphor. So you say like 1, right? For this kind of behavior, 1, 2, 3. She said 1, it was like sitting at the dinner table, 1, 2, with and nothing. So you literally take any text and practice. And this is right. When you start understanding how and pause is amazing. When you pause is, and in music we say silence is music as well. Like
if you didn't have the spaces between notes, it would just all be squashed in
together.
Can
you imagine that?
So exactly. So this is how you practice. You take the text, you record it, and you count in your head. So you literally say, okay, da 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 da, 1, da 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 da, 1, 2, 3, da da da, and you find your own rhythm, because your 1, 2, 3s might be faster or slower than mine. So you find your rhythm, you go with the flow, and you pause, and that also gives you the interesting, it builds the interest and emphasis on the words that you want to be heard.
Well, we could listen to you all night. You've got an amazing voice.
I could talk all night.
Yeah, your insights and techniques are truly empowering. So I think we encourage our listeners to embrace their authentic voices and use these tips that Ewa shared with us tonight, speaking with confidence in all areas of your life. And I think if you do get stuck and you want to know or learn a little bit more, Ewa, quickly, where can people find you online?
So first, it's my website. It's speakwithconfidence.me, and you've got all the information there. Now, because it's summer, and because I'm going to be stuck here in the summer, and I want to try something new, and I'm using the word try with purpose. on purpose. I'm doing the 4-week completely free, no string attached course on confidence. So this will be only, like very specific, from the white thing. And it's going to start on the 1st of July. So when you send me a message or email to hello@speakwithconfidence.me, or my number, WhatsApp number. I don't know if you're sharing it in the notes or
we can do. Yeah, we'll put
fantastic.
up your whatever you've given us as your links.
Amazing.
We'll
So I'm doing the 4-week course, which will be basically every week, so you can weekly build on a new skill. And
fantastic.
Yes, this is my new experiment.
Oh,
I love
fantastic!
It. Wow. I would.
The messaging is going crazy because people. Nikki is in. Zita's like, that sounds interesting. So I think you got your hands full with people coming to that event. So that sounds fantastic. So don't miss it, people. Don't miss it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's gonna be absolutely catered for you. So for whoever whoever signs up, it's gonna be catered to you, because I want to see what's the most important. That's another thing. You can't create something without knowing what people really want. You can't go to networking with your idea that, oh my gosh, I've got this business idea and it's amazing, because maybe it's not. But when you listen to what people want, this is when you can really, really help and really give something that will change and transform.
Well, I think that's an incredible offer. Eva, wish you all the best with that. That sounds incredible. Looking forward to hearing about it after the summer.
Thanks to you guys. Ladies, you are amazing. What you do with this podcast is absolutely, it's like a gem. It's amazing. The things that we talk about here, and the people who you invite, unbelievable. And I hope that you grow to millions, and you're gonna be,
who knows? Who knows? We'd like to thank everyone though who has joined us.
Letting me be part of this.
No, we appreciate this.
Amazing. So thank you everyone who has tuned in tonight, and also thank you to all our viewers who watch the recordings. Without you guys, we'd just be three women having.
We'd just be Janine and Sara.
Yeah, just having a chat. Well, we can do that too, but we like to share our conversations, and we want to bring in amazing women like Eva. We've got another incredible show lined up for next week. You don't want to miss it. And if you've enjoyed our podcast and you'd like to help us out, we do have a Buy Me a Coffee link. It'll be on the website and also below this video. We would really appreciate it, because we want to take this to another level, and we can't do that without funding. So yeah, whatever, even if it's just buying us a cappuccino, we would very much appreciate it. So I think our last word is literally enjoy the rest of the evening. And Eva, thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes. Until then, stay wise, stay strong, and stay you.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.